18th.
There you go. Happy Thursday.
No, it's terrific Thursday.
Ah, I like that. See, these are the attitudes we need, the positive motivation.
Right. Followed by fantastic Friday.
That's right. And 2 days to the weekend.
Well, thanks for inviting me today. I'm very excited.
So good to see you. It's fun to see a good old friend and a friendly face.
I wish we could do it live.
I know. Well, we do have
in San Francisco.
In person would be nice.
In person, right.
Well, let's kick it off. So, hey everybody, Jim Benton here, CEO of Chorus, live with the weekly briefing that we hold each Thursday, unlocking the data and the insights behind the conversations. And today, I'm joined by Gerhard Gschwandtner, who's the CEO of Selling Power and an old friend.
Thank you, Jim. Thanks for inviting me.
Appreciate it. Well, I wanted to maybe kick off. We're big on sharing the data. And Gerhard, would love to get a sense of, what has life looked like for you over the last few months and the teams you work with as we showcase the productivity data of meeting volume. It's down 3% week over week. But what are you seeing out there and what surprised you during this period?
Well, what surprised me is the resilience of the sales leaders that were proactive and reacted very quickly and pivoted, and they came up with a lot of creative solutions. One of our neighbors here in Fredericksburg, Virginia, is into it, and they have a big sales organization of about 500 inbound salespeople. Okay. And within 36 hours, they got everybody up and running at home. They took their office chairs, they took their computers, their laptops, and all their tools, and then they had an all hands on deck meeting, and it was a dramatic shift, but they reached out to clients and were as good as ever. Productivity did not drop, and I have another friend who is a Midwestern builder, and they had showrooms, and their salespeople made appointments and led people through showrooms. And within like 2 days, they installed cameras in every spec house and did virtual tours and ended up doing more tours than before, which is amazing. Of course, there are some organizations that suffer greatly, like retail or restaurants or transportation or entertainment. And I think the stats that you're showing here, they're sort of amazing to me because there's almost no trace of COVID in this stat.
I think that's been the big surprise. I do know that when we dig into the data by segment, and to your point about retail, I think that's the story of this pandemic, is that companies are either up 30% and having a huge influx of activity. These are security companies or the collaboration companies, or they're down significantly. And when you put the transportation, HR recruiting types, MarTech even, when you put the two together, it's looking a bit more flat. And when you peel it apart, we start to see that dynamic a bit more. Today, Gerhard, we're going to go through and look a little bit more deeply about the data behind, sales productivity, as well as when we look at different deals, won loss, close loss, what we're seeing from a meeting volume, and excited to get your perspective on this. So we'll kick it off by looking at some of the sales productivity data. And one of the first things we're looking at is just mornings. Right now it's before 9, and you and I are connecting, but meetings before 9 a.m. are up 20%. You can see that on the left since January timeframe. But when we look at the deal sizes, no real change in terms of our larger or smaller meetings happening. Are you being pulled into more morning meetings yourself?
I think that by and large, the days stretch. They become longer. People start earlier and later, and maybe take some more breaks in between to take care of their family needs. So we're living in a really different environment that where it's not work from home, it's work from anywhere. That people make calls on while they're traveling with their kids. It's the new normal is work from anywhere.
I think
Anytime.
When you look at the afternoons, sort of in terms of work from any time, I mean, check this out: 148% increase in percentage of meetings after 4 p.m. And when we actually look at by deal size, as we connect in and look at the actual opportunities, we see that there's a 44% increase in the larger deals. So the largest of deals we're working are having meetings that are later in the day. I guess the question is, besides the commutes, you mentioned work anywhere, anytime. Is this healthy? Is this a good thing that we're stretching the day and we're having these meetings?
I think that there's another story, which is the emotional impact on coronavirus. Somebody once said that there are two pandemics. One, there's the coronavirus, and there's the anxiety pandemic. And anxiety has two faces to it. One face is the hyperreaction phase, where people freak out and they don't know what to do, and their focus is very narrow, and they cannot think straight, and that needs to be treated. And then there's the other phase, which is denial. A lot of people deny that there is a serious disease out there, and their decisions and their actions endanger them. Because they go to bars, they think it's nothing, and they don't wear a mask, they don't protect themselves. So we need to be cognizant of the fact that there's a lot of hard work and there's a lot of stress, and people are seeking relief, and they don't know really what to do. I personally go for a walk for an hour every day. I go in the woods, I go in a park, and I'm by myself, and it restores me. And I also have an app on my iPhone. It's called Plum Village, that has short meditations, like 5 minutes, 10 minutes, 15 minutes. You have male voices, female voices, and you use progressive relaxation techniques. So you want to take care of yourself, and self-care is something that we need to stress as sales leaders and make sure that our people don't burn out.
I think it's an awesome topic, and I think a lot of us are figuring out how to help encourage this internally. Have you seen companies you've worked with, program this in, or more of just encouragement and everyone sort of doing it in their own way?
Yeah, that's a good question. As an example, Salesforce.com has done an internal survey and found that 36% of their workers suffer from mental health issues. And mental health issues can go from anywhere from increased stress to high anxiety or depression. And companies like Starbucks, or Microsoft, they're dealing with it by giving people the opportunity to seek out counseling, pay for a certain number of hours. Where Salesforce.com has a program where they teach them how to meditate or teach them mindfulness techniques. But they also created a website called Be Well Together that had a lot of traffic, where every week there's a different expert that talks about stress management, about exercise, about nutrition, about wellness and self-care, and how to deal with anxiety. So I think they're doing a great job. And I think if you're a smaller company, you want to look into this. You want to have conversations with your team and say, how can we reach out? How can we have more conversation? And start every conversation with, how are you feeling today? People appreciate that, and increase your level of empathy.
One of the areas that we, in terms of just self-care and people taking more time, we are seeing that Friday meetings are down 18%. And this is specifically looking at customer-focused meetings, but it does seem like people are finding different ways to work during the week as well. So they're getting up earlier, they're staying later, but they're maybe shrinking the week a bit. Both Monday and Friday meetings are both down. So we're squeezing more into shorter windows of time. I think that the key is really, are people able to unplug on the weekend? That might be an area, Gerhard, you mentioned that earlier, that we might want to.
Yeah, I think it would be a good idea to capture what people are doing on Saturdays and Sundays, because I do get a fair amount of emails over the weekend. And I even know that some salespeople, they make prospecting calls on Saturdays and find other people, find customers that work on Saturdays as well. So they close out the week, and on Sunday they start out by planning the week and setting appointments.
Do you find even personally that, if we're all at home, the weekend, your office is right next to you, whether it's in your bedroom or the room next door or wherever you work, it's very close and you're used to it. The days don't differ. Do you think, and from what you're seeing, that the weekends are having a significant more work, or are people still unplugging? You mentioned sales doing outreach, but in general, do you find that people are able to get the separation?
Well, I think the notion of office has disappeared. I think that we are all addicted to screens. We open a laptop and all of a sudden we're in another world, or we look at our iPhones while the kids are playing, and you're not emotionally available, and that's not healthy. And people need to become aware of that and be mindful that the family needs you.
I think it's something we're all challenged with, because you're right. You're going from different screen sizes all day long, and it's nothing better than finding a way to turn it off for a few hours.
Right. And I think it's not just turning off, but turning inward. And what I teach people is you can have a mindfulness break at any moment during the day, and just take 1 minute, 60 seconds. Just close your eyes and say, I'm aware of my body. And then all of a sudden something changes in you. And as you exhale, you say, I'm letting go of all my tensions. Yeah. I'm aware of my body. I'm letting go of all my tensions. Just 1 minute, it changes your physiology and changes your psychology and restores your energy.
It's magical. Is there one last question on that? The techniques to remember this. When we do these things, and many of us have adopted this, but others try it, they see the value, but we forget to do these. How do you remember this? What's your rhythm to making sure that you take that time?
I think that you need to schedule it. Some people are better in the morning. They meditate for 10 minutes before they do anything, before they fire up their laptop or look at their iPhone. And the same thing is to schedule something, set a timer for, let's say, 9:00 p.m. To shut off everything and do a 10-minute mindfulness break before you transition over, go into bed.
I love it. I think it's awesome advice. I appreciate you sharing that, Gerhard. The last area I wanted to go a little bit deeper on was looking at the opportunities that we're working right now and how we're working in terms of these deals. And a few of the different data points we pulled is that when we look at just the number of people in our meetings today, we're seeing a 36% increase of the buying side, having more participants than before, and an 18% increase in the selling side. So there's a lot more people in the sales process today. What does that mean? How do we need to adapt, knowing that there's more people involved?
I think that we need to be sympathetic of the buyer situation and understand what's going on, because they are hard-pressed meeting payroll, paying for office rent that they're not using, cutting down expenses, and they want to have more decision makers, more eyes on the dollar that goes out. So it's not unusual for a CFO to join a meeting, a Zoom meeting, or for the CEO to show up, and they want to know where do I get the best ROI? And that's what the name of the game is. So you need to create an offer that has a lot more value items in there, where a lot more dense packed benefits, and lower the risk. This is the time where people want to bet on sure things. They don't want to take a big risk. So maybe spread the payments out, or come up with something creative to get through this and understand the psychology of the buyer.
The extreme ROI, that's been one of the biggest themes that we hear. We see a 92% increase in CFOs joining. You mentioned CEOs. On the sell side, we see a 29% increase in CEOs joining. But boy, that ROI experience is one that really resonates as one of the key drivers right now to getting deals done. One of the areas that we were looking at is how many meetings that we're putting into deals that we don't win right now. And we're seeing a 5 to 10% increase in the number of meetings on lost deals. So when we look at 2019 versus 20, in what you're finding is that we're having to work a lot harder on our deals, and that's closed lost. This is closed won. So we're seeing a 15% additional meetings on the closed won deals as well. So we're working a lot harder and having more touches, more meetings right now than we ever have to close our deals. What's your perspective, Gerhard? What are you seeing out there on that standpoint?
Well, I think that we all need a better perspective. It sucks to work harder for less because we are not used to that. But when you put it in a historical context, let's imagine you were born in 1900. By the age of 14, World War I started, and it lasted 4 years. 4 years of deprivation, of houses getting bombed. And then when you were 23, the stock market crashed, and then it crashed again in 27. And then in 1933, the Nazi Party came to power and changed the world order. And when you were 39, World War II started. So you already had a world war when you were 14. You have another one when you were 39. And if you didn't get drafted and you got lucky, by 45 it ended. Then the Korean War started. And then the Vietnam War started in the 60s and didn't end until 1975. I forgot the pandemic in 1918.
Yeah.
So look at the last 40 years. It was a cakewalk for American society. And look at what your parents or your grandparents had to go through to survive, to give you the opportunity to enjoy the last 40 years in peace. And I think we need to be grateful that we only got hit by a bump in the road.
I think it's, I know amongst my family, I call it the Great Reset, just reset to just the basics and the simplicity and just people, right? A lot of human connection. And I think that change is the hardest part. But once you make changes and people still come together, you can get through very difficult things. And I think a lot of people are impacted very differently right now. I think we're still going through it. Right. And I think that there's from the sales side, I just think there's a lot of people that are helping to solve other people's problems still. And they're the ones that are authentically reaching out and making the effort to say, you know what, I know we're all going through a bit of a tough period, but I think I can help your business or I help you, are the ones that are really, playing their part right now. So I appreciate that as we see that across the board.
I think that, what I'm getting from you and the way you conduct yourself and the way you reach out, you have a big heart, and I think we all need a bigger heart. And customers need a lot more love and empathy. And when you're authentic and sincere, then it's much easier to feel good about the effort and be understanding if they're last minute, they're canceled. It's not a reflection on you.
Yeah,
it is a reflection on the situation.
I mean, I couldn't imagine doing sales or any role when you don't have the heart. It's just pure work. And when you find the heart, how lucky are we that we get to do this type of work every day? And I just think that everyone has to find, that part of it. I pulled one extra stat for you, Gerhard, that I just wanted to share with you. We shared this last week, but I thought you'd get a kick out of this. We just in the spirit of storytelling, and I think this gets into heart and authenticity, but we did find that top performers tell 20% more stories than, the average performer. And right. What, in my time with you over the years, I feel like you're rich with stories. You were just sharing, great perspective of the last generation, the greatest generation, as we call them. What are your thoughts today on stories?
Well, I think that there is a difference between the narrative that flows through a top performer versus the narrative of an average or a poor performer. Poor performers really are suffering from low self-esteem, and they are not capable or not trained to formulate a narrative that is uplifting, that's hopeful, that's constructive, where they feel they're on a path towards a worthwhile, meaningful goal. Whereas the top performers, they think more constructively, and they create a narrative where they know that they're part of a larger movement, and they know that they're going somewhere, and they're helping a lot of other people win. And one of the people that I admire is Bill McDermott. He is now the CEO of ServiceNow. He was the CEO of SAP. And his chief talent is he's a chief storyteller. He knows how to create a narrative that is galvanizing for the people around him. So when he started his work at ServiceNow in November, he immediately started out by saying, I have faith in that product, I have faith in the people, I have faith in the company, I have faith in the future, and I'm ready to, jump in and make it happen. And the market cap of the company at that time was 49 billion, and I just checked it this morning. It is 83 billion. So here's somebody who worked for 9 months in this job and added, what is the math here?
40 plus billion, yeah.
34 billion. And that's because he knows how to create what I call that galvanizing narrative that puts everything in perspective. And peak performers, they tell stories that help other people think. And there's a lot of people suffer from negative self-talk. I remember a survey by NIH that said that we experience about 60,000 thoughts a day. We're constantly chattering. And 80% of those thoughts are negative. And there's another research that says in order to flourish, to grow, you need a ratio of 3-to-1 of positive to negative experiences. So if you have a negative experience, you've got to work harder to neutralize it. And then once you go through that and do the work, salespeople that are happy, that flourish, they sell 38% more.
No surprise. It's amazing. I mean, they say that about feedback too, the 3-to-1 or 4-to-1 ratio of positive to negative. Final thoughts, Gerhard, on just your perspective as you look out to Q3 and beyond a little bit in the sales community?
Well, Q3 is likely to be flat. Q4 is going to be an amazing growth. And the way I look at 2020, it's a slingshot for 2021. 2021 is going to be probably the biggest growth year ever in American history. And we need to get through it by, as a sales leader, you're a merchant of hope. And you need to share with people that the horizon line that you see right now may be blurry, but leaders need to see the clarity of the future, that see that hope, that nugget that's waiting for us. And if you're a merchant of hope, you're going to be all right.
Start building your teams in Q3, Q4 to get ready for 2021. Gerhard, I love it. I love the energy, love the time with you, and just appreciate you being generous to share that with all of us today. I wish you and your family the absolute best. And for everyone listening, you can go to Chorus.ai and find this weekly briefing, watch the video, download the content, and we'll see you next Thursday. Thanks, Gerhard.
Thank you, Jim. It's an honor, and thank you for inviting me.
Anytime. Cheers.